Hi y'all, I'm Allie and I'm a program coordinator with Campfire Central Puget Sound, and today we're going to do a little video tutorial on the natural dyeing process. So before we begin the tutorial, let's make sure you have all the supplies you need to complete the lesson. So of course you need your dye material. So this can be a fruit, a vegetable, a spice, even acorns, sticks you find outside, and grass. Just anything natural and colored should most likely work. But make sure it's fresh and not dried. You're also going to need knife or scissors to cut up your plant material, and you might need a cutting board for that as well. You're going to need a pot with some water, something to stir that water with, and then your dyeing cloth. So this should be white, and it should be silk, wool, cotton, or linen. That's what's going to take up the dye of the best. And then to treat our cloth, you're going to need some salt if you're using berries. But if you're not using berries, some simple vinegar will do. So let's get started with preparing our fabric. To prepare our fabric for natural dyeing, we're first just going to run it under some cold water to get it damp. And then we are going to prepare our fixative. So our fixative is a solution that is going to help affix our dye to our fabric. And if you're using anything other than berries, your fixative will be a solution of 1 part vinegar to 4 parts cold water. If you are choosing to dye with berries, that solution will be 1/2 cup salt to 8 cups cold water. So I'm going to place my fabric in my water vinegar solution, and I'm going to let it sit for a period of 1 hour. And while that is soaking, we can get started preparing our natural dye. So now it's time to prepare our plant material. Whatever material you chose, the important thing here is that we're going to cut it up into very small pieces. We do this because it increases the surface area that is exposed to our boiling water, which means that more of the pigments that are held in the plant will leach out into our water and can then be absorbed by our fabric. As you can see, I've chopped up my plant material very finely, and now I'm just going to place it into my big pot. Put most of it in. And then I'm going to fill this pot with twice as much water as I have plant material. Okay, now I have my pot, which is filled with 1/3 plant material and 2/3 water. And you can just estimate here. You don't have to use a measuring cup or get it perfect. You just want about that ratio. And now I'm going to put it on the stove and let it simmer for 1 hour. As your plant material boils, make sure you're stirring it occasionally. After your plant material has been simmering for about an hour and it's reached a nice dark color that's to your liking, it's time to take your pot off the stove and strain it into another pot. I've done my best to strain all the plant material out of my dyed water so that I'm just left with some colored water. And I've gone ahead and taken my fabric out of the fixative it was soaking in, and I've wrung it out so that it's just damp but not soaking wet. And now I'm going to put it back in my pot of dye water on the stove, which I have on medium heat, and I'm just going to bring it to a slow boil and let it soak for about an hour. And once again, I'm going to stir occasionally just to make sure that nothing burns. After my fabric has been simmering on the stove for about 1 hour, I'm going to turn my stove off and take my pot off the stove and let the fabric continue to soak in the warm water for another hour, or as long as it takes for you to achieve the color you want in your fabric. After your fabric has been soaking in your warm water for 1 hour or longer, you can take your fabric out of that water and then just rinse it under some cold running water until all the excess dye has washed out of your fabric. Now, I left mine soaking overnight because I was going for a more vibrant color, but after rinsing it with cold water, this is my end result. I hope after watching this video tutorial, you're able to try some natural fabric dyeing at home and take some fabric from looking like this to this. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at allief@campfireseattle.org. Thanks, and have a colorful day.